Hello, my beautiful friends. We are connecting the tubes over here on the back end. We had a slight scheduling delay. My apologies on that. But it looks like things are connecting, which is tremendous news. It is a beautiful day back. Happy Monday, my friends. Tuesday, my friends. We had a show yesterday. Felt like we were Sunday yesterday because we weren't home. But now we're home. We were in Prescott yesterday. We're back home. We had a very successful trip. And we're excited for Thanksgiving coming up. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully well. You've got all your food preparation plans in place. We've got business to attend to here today. Let me give you a preview on what we're talking about. News is a little bit light out there on the day, but we do have some good news out of the Court of Appeals out in Florida in the 11th Circuit. It is now confirmed that Jack's appeal is dismissed. The 11th Circuit granted the motion to dismiss the appeal. That is fresh out of the oven this afternoon. And so good stuff there. We'll come back on that. We got a lot of reaction to what happened yesterday. Trump was fuming mad about being the victim of a political prosecution over the last 3.5 years, 4 years now. And he posted this response to Jack Smith's cases going bye-bye. 47 million hits there. That is a whopper. We'll come back and see what the president said. Then I got a bunch of reaction here from Shifty Schiff, the censured loser who's going to the Senate, along with his exchange with MSNBC's probably soon to be canceled show called Inside Jen Psaki. Shifty was on with her talking about the DOJ and how Trump beat their pants off in multiple different ways. And then we'll see what some of the reaction is to the Trump transition, because his numbers are looking good. But we've got more reaction to the Jack Smith dismissals. Tom Cotton weighed in. We've got, this is Matt Gaetz who weighed in on this. Alina Habba was in the House, and more. So we'll go through a bunch of clips here. Newt Gingrich weighing in, and so just a bunch of stuff that we'll check in on, because the Democrats are entering a state of depression. They needed Jack Smith to persevere. He is not going to be persevering, and so they will be perspiring over this. We'll then turn our attention to the new tariff battle that's happening. Some may call it a tariff war. I'm here for it. But here's what Trump said. We'll go through this in full detail. 2 truths from him saying, all right, guess who's on notice? Mexico, Canada, and China are all going to be in the president's path in the foreseeable future, and they've all come out and reacted. So we'll see that this is from The Guardian, saying that the Mexican president, her name is Claudia Sheinbaum, who is going to be saying that they're going to retaliate with their own tariffs. You want to tariff us, punks? We're going to tariff you back, amigos, is what Mexico just said to us, which is interesting. So we'll see what that article says. Then we've got more reaction from her because she was out speaking. President Sheinbaum. And then we'll have a translated article, because I wanted to see what Reuters was reporting in the language of the Latinx community. So we'll go through that. Then we've got border czar Tom Homan is out, and he is very upset about any mayors who say that they are not going to be cooperating with the new administration. He says, well, there's going to be a mass deportation whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, well, you can go over the wall with the rest of them for all we care. So we'll listen to that. We also got Trudeau, who was the dictator in Canada. He came out and emerged and says, yeah, we had a good call with Trump. He's a nice guy all of a sudden. And so we'll listen to what he said. We can't stand this guy because of what he did to our Freedom Convoy truckers and how he's wrecked Canada. And I got friends from Canada who are all coming down here. They're like, man, it's terrible up there. So Godspeed to our friends in Canada. A dictator Trudeau, hopefully something is changing up there. But we got him. We got Pierre Poilievre, who also came out from Canada. And then we're going to go to the Chinese Karine. This is China Karine here. And she is basically, I was reading this. This is a press briefing from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the People's Republic of China. And she's like Karine. I'm not joking you. It's kind of hysterical. So we'll read through this because a bunch of people, okay, this is the question, just what I highlighted there. That's the question from the news media. This is the response from their press secretary. That's it. So it's not exactly like Karine, because Karine just rambles on for about 5 minutes. But this is what she says. I just noted what you mentioned, and we will respond to that later. Okay, that's how they do things in China. We got a question for you. I noted what you asked. Do not ask again. So that's China. All right, we'll read through the press briefing and we'll see what they said, because there were a bunch of questions about Trump. All right, the paper, the Wall Street Journal was there, Reuters was there. They're all asking about it. She says, I have no information to share. Don't test me to the people in the media. A little bit different vibe there in China when they have their press briefings, isn't it? All right, so we've got that coming up. And then I think we already had that one. So we'll talk about the Trump transition numbers, which are looking very, very good for him. And then there was this one story that popped up today. Ryan Ruth, the alleged Trump assassin, the guy who was at the golf course waiting for Trump to round the fifth hole or whatever it was, wrote a letter, and he sent the letter to Politico. And this whole article is just a total joke. First of all, as far as I can tell, they haven't published the letter. So can you like scan it and upload it? Do you guys have a scanner there? Can you take a picture of it and put it on the internet for us so we can read it? Or are you just going to skim through the letter that he sent? So the assassin is in custody, sent the letter to Politico. They haven't published it. And they'll, I guess, give us some excerpts. And as they go through this little struggle session with themselves, they're like, we don't know what his motivations were. We don't know if she's a Democrat or not, and we can't figure it out. So it's kind of a painful article, but they do have his letter in there. So we'll read through the letter. We'll see what the Trump assassin says, and we'll see that it's obvious that this guy is not well and is probably persuaded by the Democrats' insanity, saying for the last several years that Trump's an insurrectionist and so on and so forth. So we've got that coming up and more, and it's a beautiful Tuesday, and very glad that you're here, my friends. Hopefully you're getting excited for the Thanksgiving that is ahead. And when Thanksgiving is here, you know what's going to be there? A bunch of food on your plate. And one situation we don't want to get into is eating terrible food, because right now, as you know, we live in a very advanced time. Very many medical health breakthroughs and all sorts of stuff popping up. The question is, why are millions of Americans more unhealthy and overweight now than they've ever been? Well, Dr. Amy Lee, U.S. board certified physician and expert nutritionist, is saying that one of the main reasons is 3 harmful foods that we eat that are often passed off as health foods. Now, wait till you hear this message in this video, because these foods are a big problem. They cause weight gain, digestive tract problems, deplete your energy. It's not good. But shockingly, they're still legal, even though they shouldn't be. And what are they? Well, Dr. Amy Lee will tell you what they are. Explains exactly what they are, how they work, how they wreak havoc on our health, how we can stop and reverse these things just by knowing what not to eat. And so find out what they are. Go to 3harmfulfoods.com/RG, link in the description, or click the link in the description below. After years of study, Dr. Amy Lee has figured it out. So find out everything you can, 3harmfulfoods.com/RG. Link is in the description below. Don't eat that garbage food and be healthy. Courtesy of Dr. Amy Lee. Thank you, Dr. Amy Lee, for sponsoring today's episode. And my friends, check the link out in the description below. All right. And now, without any further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day before we have our turkey and potatoes and cranberry sauce. Here is the news. Jack Smith depression setting in all around the Democratic circles in America now that both of Jack Smith's cases have been dismissed. And now that we have a new ruling from the 11th Circuit, the United States Court of Appeals, we have a post-mortem to do on Jack Smith's cases. And as we said when we covered both of the dismissal filings previously, this is not over yet. This is just the beginning. Their onslaught of political prosecution that they've been engaged in for the last 3.5 years, 4 years, just in this recent epoch, not to mention the Mueller and the Russia and all those other epochs, is not going to go without consequence. They betrayed the justice system. They undermined American law. They broke 234 years of historical precedent in order to go after their political opponent. Now they're going to dismiss this case on a technicality? No. And President Trump is in concurrence on this. Here's what he posted shortly after the opinions came out. And as we know, Judge Chutkan has already dismissed the January 6th case. Gone. After all that time, after all the lecture about no one is above the law. They said that for years. No one's above the law. Then he became the president and suddenly he's above the law. The hell are they talking about? Where have they been? How can any Democrat sit there and still be a Democrat after being told that for years, no one's above the law, then to suddenly turn around and dismiss the cases? It's a joke. The whole thing was a political operation. Trump knows it. Here's what he said. 47 million views on this one. Says these cases, like all of the other cases I've been forced to go through, are empty and lawless and should never have been brought. Over $100 million of taxpayer dollars have been wasted in the Democrat Party's fight against their political opponent, me. Nothing like this has ever happened in our country before. They have also used state prosecutors and district attorneys such as Fani Willis and her lover, Nathan Wade, who had absolutely zero experience in cases such as this, but was paid millions, enough for them to take numerous trips and cruises around the globe. Letitia James, who inappropriately, unethically, and probably illegally campaigned on, quote, getting Trump in order to win political office. And Alvin Bragg, who himself never wanted to bring this case against me, but was forced to do so by the Justice Department and the Democrat Party. It was a political hijacking and a low point in the history of our country that such a thing could have happened, and yet I persevered against all odds and won. Make America great again. And he's right. And think about what it took for him to win. It took 80 million Americans at his back and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars over the course of the years in order to stand firm against the government that was responsible for that. And Alvin Bragg, he was not alone. He was part of a conspiracy orchestrated by the White House and the Democratic Party to take out Trump. He was being guided by Matthew Colangelo, which was Biden's number 3 at the DOJ. Tish James, same thing. Her office worked with Colangelo in the civil fraud cases. Then he left her office, went back to the DOJ, then went back to Bragg, setting up little Trump prosecution franchises directed by the Democrats. Same thing with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. Why'd they go to Washington? Go to the White House? How come they did those things? Right in the middle of the Trump prosecutions. Why were they colluding with Trump's political opponents? Maybe they should be investigated for that. And the list goes on and on. But we're not done with this. And Matt Gaetz chimed in, said it can never happen again. It can never happen again. And something needs to be done to ensure that it doesn't. But the 11th Circuit has come out just to poke them again on this one. Another case dismissed. So apparently, becoming the president makes you above the law, which in many ways was the same argument we were making from the get-go, all right? So thanks for confirming we're right. We said they were Trump's documents. He took them when he was the president, left with the White House. It's his power under the Constitution. The opinion clause of the Constitution says he's entitled to the writings of his executives. And he took them. They're his documents. Precedent exists for that with Bill Clinton's sock drawer, but they raided his house anyways. Now that case, they say they can't prosecute because he's a president, so he's above the law. Well, he was above the law when he took the documents. So thanks for confirming it. But the 11th Circuit now is dismissing Jack Smith's case. So this is a bad couple days for Democrats. And this is a short order from the court. Yesterday, Jack Smith said, well, he's the president, and this unprecedented situation that we engineered ourselves deliberately has now caused us to be in a predicament. We have to dismiss the case. So he sent this one into the 11th Circuit, says, appellant's motion to dismiss the appeal as to Donald J. Trump only is granted. Jack loses another one. His case is dismissed on the appeal. Now, to just be clear on this, it's not a total loss for him or the DOJ, because now they're going to be able to keep some of that special counsel power without really having good clarity on it. The only thing that they have is a federal district court opinion from Judge Cannon. Now, Trump will, of course, be in charge of the DOJ, and so now he can use that power as he sees fit. adverse to that authority. Not that I think that he will. But if you imagine that the Democrats are going to retake the DOJ at some point, this might be a benefit for them in that arena, because now at least they're not having the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals confirm that Jack Smith is not a real boy. And of course, that would cause the DC Circuit to have a split there. If they said he's not a real boy and the DC Circuit said he was a real boy, then we go up to the Supreme Court and they would have to flesh that out for the nation. And that might whittle down the DOJ's power. But a good decision here. So both of Trump's federal cases are now gone. Hundreds of millions of dollars wasted. Billions of dollars of political damage done. You can't even imagine how many impressions you have of Jake Tapper every night. Insurrection, indictment, constantly. Billions in damage against Trump that he'll never see compensation for. But there were more reactions. Of course, Trump came out and spoke about it. Shifty Adam Schiff is crying. He says, the Justice Department and the court system failed to uphold the principle that no one is above the law. I mean, he's right. Yeah, I mean, because first of all, the premise is idiotic, because as we've said here many times, the president in many ways is the law. He is the root of the executive branch. The pardon power is a factual example of being above the law. The president holds that power. So it's just a dumb marketing statement that they used as Democrats. But the Justice Department has failed. They have failed. Jack Smith is a failure. And Liz Cheney is a failure. She ran a 8-part season, multi-episode season of Insurrectionoris, or whatever they were doing there. Book report and presentation, class presentation with liars, with no cross-examination, no due process at all, to act as a little investigatory body so that they could, almost like a secretive grand jury, so they can go investigate and subpoena and do all this. They just did it openly in the court of public opinion in Congress, which gave them immunity to lie and do whatever the hell they want, because there's no recourse there. So Liz Cheney could bring in clavicle girl Cassidy Hutchinson, have her lie through her teeth to all of America, in my opinion, and get away with it. Because what are you going to do? Sue her? No, I'm in Congress. Nothing. Immunity. You can't have those same protections with a grand jury or outside of that arena. So no due process protections at all. Nonetheless, she faked everything, bundled it up, then gave it to Jack Smith and the DOJ, then deleted her evidence when there was a change of power from the Democrats and the Republicans took over. No records. And then Jack still took that, all of that, in a rigged jurisdiction called Washington, D.C., that voted 93% for Kamala Harris, and did everything that they could to rush the case through, not give Trump access to the actual evidence that he needed. The evidence that they did dump on him was like 8 million pages of materials. That was more than Walmart versus Visa, which took 7 years to litigate. More than that. And they gave him like 7 months to read it. They said, you don't even need to read the discovery because the prosecutors read the discovery for you, and here's what they found you need. All of that. Media after media person, night after night, ransacking the president's reputation, and anybody who supported him, added all up, and they still failed. Because they're pathetic. Because it's not legitimate, right? You can't fake this type of stuff. I mean, they got damn close to it, my friends, also, by the way. But they failed. Adam Schiff is right. They failed. Now, the principle, they would have a hard time proving, because Bill Clinton was above the law when he took his sock drawer records. Hillary Clinton was above the law when she deleted her classified document records. And she wasn't even entitled to have that at the time because she was Secretary of State. She was not the president. Same with VP Joe. So many people are above the law, Shifty, but your little stupid marketing phrase has failed. Now, the DOJ, by neglecting to promptly investigate J6, and the courts by willfully delaying progress of the case and providing immunity. The public deserved better. Dude, this was the most rigged situation you could have possibly engineered in all of America. And you guys still lost. You guys, and he's now crying about it. What a sore loser. The DOJ, first of all, the DOJ timed the prosecution to coincide with the election. They filed the indictments at the end of 2023 so they could set it for a trial in March, right during primary season. Schiff, and you were thrilled about that. And then, of course, the Supreme Court gave him immunity. But every single president before Trump has had functional immunity. Shifty, you guys broke the precedent and charged him. So the Supreme Court had to get in there and step in and intervene. Maybe if you would have just followed the law and not acted like you guys were above the law, things would have gone differently for you and you wouldn't be made such a laughingstock. So here is Schiff. I think he's making his probably final appearances on the failing, floundering MSNBC and Inside Jen Psaki's pathetic show. Here's Schiff.
Does that mean you think there was an alternative to what Jack Smith did today?
Yes, I think there was an alternative. The alternative would have been to postpone further proceedings in the case until after he left office. Now, what Jack Smith did is seek to dismiss the case without prejudice. That means they can bring charges against Trump again once he leaves office. But it is nevertheless a very serious distinction, because the status quo now is no charges against the president. You would have to upset that status quo to later bring charges again.
For an old case.
As opposed to merely postponing the proceedings, in which case the presumption is they continue when he leaves office. Now, Jack Smith relied on the opinion of lawyers within the department who said that they thought it was required by the Constitution to dismiss the case, but it isn't required by the Constitution. There's nothing that would interfere with his performance of the office, whether the case is dismissed without prejudice or merely postponed. So I think this is a serious mistake.
Yeah, I mean, he's right that they are inconsistent. Right? He's pointing out their hypocrisy. They said that no one's above the law, not even a sitting president. How many times did they say that to us? Not even a sitting president, not even a sitting president. Well, the allegations on January 6th in the January 6th case occurred when Trump was the president. The classified documents, taking of the documents occurred when he was the president. So they indicted him for conduct when he was the president, saying that his presidential conduct was criminal. No, he was no longer the president. So the burden then, right, that they're alleging is that he's going to be, nervous about these cases as he's the acting president. And so that's the only reason. It's because it's going to interfere with his duties, and it's a precedential problem because of this other. It's a fake excuse. Schiff is right. I mean, Jack Smith, if they're all right that no one is above the law, Jack Smith should have either held this in abeyance until the end of this, or he should have pushed it forward to trial, charge the president. No one's above the law. This is from a prior term, has nothing to do with this. President can walk and chew gum at the same time. If Jack Smith is really, really, really no one's above the law, move forward and make Trump appeal it. Take it up to the Court of Appeals. But we know that's not the truth, okay? These people, it was all fake from the get-go. Now they're getting busted. They're caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and so now they're cutting and running, and it's a fake because. It's an excuse. And we got elected. Yeah, that's exactly why you prosecuted him, to stop him from getting elected. Like, you obviously contemplated this would be an outcome. But Schiff is right, man, and he's trying to cope through this thing. Let's finish.
By the department. It compounds the mistake that you alluded to, which is they waited a year before they even brought this case forward.
That was intentional, so that they could time the trial with the election.
Or began the investigation. And then you have the Supreme Court with its immunity decision, and now you have a potential nominee in Pam Bondi who is saying she's going to prosecute the prosecutors. All of that goes against what Jack Smith said in his brief motion, which is that no one's above the law. So we're hearing that phrase a lot, but we're not giving validity to it by these actions.
He's right. He's right. They're not giving them. I can't even believe I'm saying it. Adam Schiff is right. Adam Schiff is explaining that they just got obliterated. All right. His own people cut their legs out from under them. They've been telling them for years. No one's above the law. No one's above the law. No one's above the law. Then he says, Trump got elected. Oops, I guess he's above the law. Schiff is going, what? What on earth? Hey, at least there's some consistency there from Schiff. I mean, it's still an idiotic position, but that was his fake marketing propaganda piece that no one's above the law, even though it's not actually true. And we've given examples of that historically. So more reaction on this. The Jack Smith cases, says Tom Cotton, will be remembered as a dark chapter of weaponization. They never should have been brought. Our elections are decided by voters, not by fanatical, deranged liberal lawyers like Jack Smith. From Tom Cotton. Hopefully he does something about it in the Senate. Hopefully you do that, Tom. We've got this one from Gaetz, clipped over here from Eric Doherty. Shared this one from Gaetz. Here's what Gaetz said about this.
Congrats to President Trump for being 100% not guilty, but I want all Americans to remember this. if we had somehow not prevailed in this election, Jack Smith would not be dismissing these charges. He would be proceeding to trial. And though this monumental victory was won for all Americans led by President Trump, we have to remember, just like we came within fractions of fractions from civil war when President Trump survived an assassination attempt, we also were just fractions away from these people trying to throw Donald Trump in prison.
Yeah, they would have done it too.
So while all of us are grateful for this victory, for Trump, it was victory or prison, because he wasn't going to get a fair trial. It was going to be some knockdown, drag-out deal with a predetermined outcome.
Yeah,
so enjoy the victory, President Trump. But the rest of us have to do all we can to ensure that no one is ever put in this type of a situation again, and we make America great again.
That's right, Matt Gaetz. Thank you for that comment, because it is true. The president's got a lot of forward-looking work to do, but we're going to be keeping our eyes on the people who were the malicious, nefarious actors over these last years. Now, Alina Habba is in the House and says, will Jack Smith reimburse taxpayers for the millions wasted on this bogus witch hunt that he just dropped? Asking for America. No, he won't. And this happens all the time, my friends. I've represented people who got arrested for DUI, had their cars impounded, had their blood drawn from their body, who came back with 0.0 BACs and no drugs in the system. Okay. So that's just one example of how people in our criminal systems can be taken advantage of by government. This happened to President Trump. This happens to people all over the place. Then you say the FBI is going and raiding the J6ers or the Catholic Charities or whatever. When are we going to get any of that money back for innocent people who are abused by our government? It's a broad question. I hope we get some answers on that. President Trump addresses it. Now, this came out. Curtis Houck was clipping this one. We got Mr. Shermichael Singleton. Shout out to Shermichael Singleton, who's over on with CNN and laying down the ruckus.
What do you think, Shermichael? I mean, the idea that, the pearl clutching about existential threats, or that this person has all these legal issues that surround him. I mean, the absence of them could work the same way that Karen's talking about. If he says, well, I don't have those issues any longer, therefore I can focus on the American people and the mandates that we have. How do you see it?
And it didn't work. I mean, for months and months, even on this network, we talked about this stuff over and over and over ad nauseum. And it didn't move the needle. No. Joe Biden tried, it didn't work. The vice president tried, it didn't work. And if you believe Harry Enton's commentary earlier today on our network, Donald Trump's approval right now is up, 18 points, I believe? Yeah. Despite all of these things, I remember data and a litany of articles from the Washington Post and the New York Times about how this matters, and all the polling data that suggested voters were so concerned about all of these issues, and yet Donald Trump improved his margins from 2020, including among demographics that not a single Republican have done well with since Richard Nixon. And I don't think you can dismiss any of those things. I mean, if I'm being, blunt, Laura, I don't think the average American person cares about these things when compared to other issues that really impact their day-to-day lives.
All right, so well done. And I think that's right. Ultimately, it's coming to that. And that's my point, is I think Trump and the administration will be focusing on those things, like the stuff that impacts everybody in their day-to-day lives. And yes, moving forward, the Trump prosecutions, both of which have been dismissed, are going to feel like they don't have a lot of impact on people's day-to-day lives. A lot of people will look back at 2020. Well, that election's over. There doesn't need to be an investigation into that. Really? Elections, we're going to have more elections. We're going to have more corrupt fannies, more corrupt Tishies, more corrupt Bidens, Obamas, Garlands, and Monacos. So, yeah, well, we're looking forward on building new things and going to Mars and all this stuff. We got to make sure that the people responsible for perverting our entire system are dealt with legally in a court of law. And we're looking forward to that. So, nice statement there from Mr. Shermichael. We also have Newt Gingrich weighing in, saying, how much of our money did Jack Smith waste in his two vendettas against President Trump? We deserve an accounting of how much was wasted on two politically inspired witch hunts by a totally unscrupulous and previously reprimanded Supreme Court 9-0 vote against him, by the way, attorney, who's not even a real boy, Newt, and illegally appointed because he's not appointed at all. And so more analysis here over from the folks on CNN. Let's see what they were talking about yesterday.
The office?
It was his only option. He had to do it. He did the right thing today. It's important to understand why, though. It's not because of that promise to fire him. It's because, and Jack Smith said this in his motion, it's because of the DOJ policy, which goes all the way back to 1973.
Which is a
Watergate.
policy, not a law, right?
Right. It's an internal, exactly. It's a good point. It's not a statute. It's not passed by Congress. We don't actually know if it's right or wrong. It's just been DOJ's internal view. Back from Watergate, they reevaluated it during the Clinton era in 2000. They actually reevaluated it now. I found that interesting. Jack Smith said in his motion today, I went back to OLC, these genius Office of Legal Counsel, these constitutional lawyers. I said, does it apply here? And they said, yes. I, Jack Smith, am bound by that. Hence, we moved to dismiss.
And remember this OLC.
Yeah, because Jack Smith is such just a rule follower. And whatever the OLC tells him to do, he does that.
Memo, opinion, advice, whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah.
This has come up with Trump before. This came up when he was president previously, and there was the Robert Mueller investigation, and there was the question of will Trump be indicted in this investigation. And it was easy to lose track of this, but it was pretty clear that Mueller was very unlikely to challenge that policy, and he never did.
Yeah, but
but everybody on cable media did, on CNN and elsewhere. They can indict a sitting president. They can indict a sitting president. And so there is going to, I think, be a lot of mourning amongst the Democrats on this one because everything is failing. And the Trump sentencing in the New York case has been vacated now, rescheduled for an evidentiary hearing. Oral arguments in the Fani Willis case have been vacated as well because they've heard enough. And so as the days go by, the winning continues. We're here for it, my friends. Thanks for joining us as we round these cases out. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you back here on the next segment, which is happening now because we're not done yet, my friends. Let's talk some tariff business because Trump's not playing anymore. And this is a lot of fun. Trump is back, baby. He's not playing around, especially on this tariff business. He dropped 2 truth posts explaining things are not going to be the same anymore now that Dad's home. And we've also got reaction from China, Mexico, and Canada, all getting a little bit nervous that this is the new change. 2 posts from the president. He says, 1, I have had many talks with China about the massive amount of drugs, in particular fentanyl, being sent into the United States, but to no avail. Representatives of China told me that they would institute their maximum penalty, that of death, for any drug dealers caught doing this. But unfortunately, they never followed through, and drugs are pouring into our country, mostly through Mexico, at levels never seen before. Until such time as they stop, we will be charging China an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs on all of their many products coming into the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Truth number 2. As everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th, as one of my many first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long simmering problem. We hereby demand that they use this power, and until such time that they do, it's time for them to pay a very big price. And we're here for it. It's about time that a president stands up for America and Americans. and stops allowing our country to be exploited at the benefit of other nations who send drugs and criminals into our country. Now, this is causing a response, as you can imagine, around the world. We've got Mexico, Canada, and China who are weighing in and responding to this. In fact, this is the Chinese Karine Jean-Pierre, who's a lot less talkative, says that they posted this on November 26 in response to this. Now, this is a transcript, since we do not speak Mandarin here. And here are some of the questions that came in. Now, the first question on the Trump saga came from Reuters. Here's what Reuters said in Mandarin. They said, Miss Mao Ning is the Chinese Karine. They said, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has pledged big tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. Trump said that the U.S. would impose an additional 10% tariff above any other additional tariffs on China on the reason that Beijing has not taken strong enough action to stop the flow of fentanyl crossing into the U.S. from Mexico. Does the Chinese ministry have any comment on this? Mao Ning, the Chinese Karine, says, I just noted what you mentioned, and we will respond to that later. All right. Reuters is like, okay. So the Wall Street Journal is next. Great, I get a question finally. Chinese Karine, following up on the previous question, I understand if you don't have any comment yet specifically on the announcement, but could you confirm, has China reached out to the Trump transition team to try to talk about this issue yet? And if so, is there any plans for talks before Donald Trump takes office in January? Chinese Karine, I have no information to share. Let me say more broadly that we are open to dialogue and communication, period. Wall Street Journal's like, all right. They ask about someone visiting China from some other country. And she has a nice response here. Look at that. Look at that response. So she ChatGPT's that one out. And then we get another question from China Daily. They ask her about Mexico. In her morning press conference on November 22nd, Mexican President Sheinbaum said that the idea that Chinese products are entering the United States and Canada through Mexico is false. She said, it's not happening. Mexican government will show to the U.S. and Canadian governments that Chinese products are not entering the two countries through Mexico, and that they enter through all other channels in terms of trade, everything else except Mexico. She also noted that they have a plan with the aim of substituting these imports that come from China and producing them in Mexico. So the Mexicans are saying, well, if Trump's going to be mad at us for taking stuff from China, then we're just going to not take stuff from China and we'll just make it in Mexico. What's China's comment about that? Chinese Karine says, China noted President Sheinbaum's remarks. China carries out trade cooperation with other countries in accordance with international rules and principles. We always believe that politicizing economic issues serves no one's interests like theirs. China and Mexico are good friends and trust each other, good partners. Imports from China have played an important role in Mexico. Maintaining sound economics is good for both sides. So then Bloomberg comes in. They're going to ask about Trump. They say, all right, listen, Chinese Karine. In his social media posts, Trump seemed to complain that China hadn't done enough to stem the flow of fentanyl to the U.S. Would the ministry like to comment on this? Does China believe that it has done enough to stop the flow and done enough with the agreements made with the U.S. on this? Chinese Karine. We've shared on multiple occasions what has been achieved in China-U.S. counter-narcotics cooperation. On your specific question, we will respond to that yesterday. They ask about Russian drones. They ask about Myanmar. And that's it. No further questions from Chinese Karine. All right. So that's what's happening in China. Now, she mentioned something about the president of Mexico, whose name is Claudia Sheinbaum, rebukes Trump and says, oh, we're going to hit you with tariffs of our own. Trump says that your plan is not going to do anything to stem the flow of migrants into your country. She says the plan is going to be followed by another tariff. One tariff would be followed by another in response, and so on, until we put at risk common businesses, she said, warning that tariffs could cause inflation and job losses in both countries. She says, what sense is there? Well, it's to stop illegal invasions of drugs and people into our country. That's the sense. Scheinbaum's comments came after Trump said on Monday that as one of his actions, 25% going right on to Mexico and Canada. Now, this tariff will remain in effect until the illegals stop. It's unclear if the proposal would even be legal or possible, they say. Well, get ready for it. Given that the three countries share a free trade agreement that has already been negotiated, but as analysts pointed out, Trump has never been one to abide by the rules. Give me a break. You guys are the ones who keep violating the Supreme Court precedent. You're not even enforcing the laws on the books about securing the border. It's wide open. Did we really think that Trump was going to become more institutional or more formal, says the Mexican economist? Mexico is the U.S.'s top trading partner as of September, 15% of our trade. Ooh, it's going to be expensive. According to Rios, a 25% tariff could cost the U.S. economy $125 billion over 10 years, while costing its GDP 0.05 to 0.74. Yeah, but how much revenue is it going to generate? And how many new jobs will be onshored back into the United States? With such steep tariffs, U.S. companies, and what are the costs once they clean up this illegal immigration problem for us by stopping it from happening? How much money are we going to save? Do you think illegal immigration costs us more than $12 billion a year? 125 billion over 10 years, so 12 billion a year, 12.5 billion a year. That's it. You think we spend more? I think we spend more flying illegals into the country than that. All right, so great. Sounds like a win. We'll take that trade all day. With such steep tariffs, U.S. economies importing Mexican goods would undoubtedly have to raise their prices. The main victim will be the American consumer because we know the companies who are doing the importing pay the tariff fees, which we understand that. That could end up costing Trump politically. No, because we want the illegal immigration to stop. One of the main reasons that Trump's campaign was successful, they say, blah, 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 is because he's speaking truth. So we know that. Now, here is what she was saying out there in the media. So this is Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the president of Mexico. This is what she looks and sounds like. The subtitles are at the bottom. So I will translate for us.
Y así,
to one tariff
hasta
until,
que pongamos en riesgo
no, I can't read
empresas comunes.
You can read it.
Sí, comunes. Por ejemplo, de los principales exportadores de México a Estados Unidos son General Motors, Stellantis y Ford Motor Company, las cuales llegaron a México hace 80 años.
American companies came here 80 years ago. They're going to tax them, put them at risk?
No es aceptable y causaría a Estados Unidos y a México inflación y pérdidas de empleo. El 70% de las armas ilegales incautadas a delincuentes.
Now she's saying 70% of the illegal weapons that are seized from criminals in Mexico come from you. You guys make the guns that come down here.
Delincuentes en México proviene de su país. Las armas
we don't produce
no las
weapons.
Producimos nosotros.
We don't use drugs.
Las drogas sintéticas no las consumimos nosotros. Los muertos por la delincuencia para responder a la demanda de drogas.
Our people are being killed by crime responding to your country's drug demands. So you crackhead American drug addict losers, maybe if you stopped snorting so much cocaine in your nose, Hunter, we wouldn't have such a problem.
Su país, lamentablemente, lo ponemos nosotros.
All right, so I think she's blaming us for being drug addicts, which is interesting. And I guess she's going to tariff something on us. We'll tariff them, and they'll tariff us back. And okay, we're here for it. We don't want illegal immigrants. We don't want fentanyl coming across the border. If we have to pay a little bit more for whatever, we're here for it. That's a trade we're happy to take. So Reuters was also responding. You can see they're publishing this in Espanol, and I thought there was a translate button here for us so we could see what they actually are translating. Tariffs do not solve immigration or drug consumption problem, she says, responding to Trump. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said on Tuesday that neither threats nor tariffs are going to solve any of this. Trump's going to be sworn in, 25% coming in hot, and they are bracing for impact. Now, the border is going to be cleaned up one way or another. We're going to come back to Tom Homan. We'll hit Tom Homan now, then we'll go to Canada. But Tom Homan is saying, yeah, the border is going to be cleared up, okay? There are going to be mass deportations, and so just get with the program.
What you've done is not only protect the state of Texas and the citizens of Texas, you are protecting this nation. It's a shame we have other governors and other mayors who are right out of the gate. I said they're going to push back on President Trump and what we're trying to do, especially for interior enforcement. Let me be clear. There is going to be a mass deportation because we just finished a mass illegal immigration crisis on the border, where anybody can look at 9 out of 10 people claim asylum at the border will end up with an order removal. So you can't ask for the right to claim asylum, the right to see a judge, the right to due process, and we give you that due process, and at the end of that due process, a federal judge orders you removed, we have to remove them. Because if we don't, shut down the immigration court. Those orders don't mean anything anymore. Take you guys off the border because there's no consequences. So you can't demand due process and the right to claim asylum and not obey the court order. That is why there needs to be a mass deportation. We have a mass number of people, millions of people who will get a final order and be order removed. If we don't do it, what is the option? Let them stay? Because if you let them stay, you'll never fix the border. You're going to send a message to the rest of the world. Enter the country legally, which is a crime. Ignore a court order, you never have to go home. We're telling the whole world it's okay to enter this country legally, you never got to go home. We're a nation of laws. And we're going to enforce the laws. The men and women of ICE, they're going to have a tough job ahead of them. And I'm sending a message for people that said they're going to get in our way. They're going to stop us from doing what we're doing on interior enforcement operation. I've said it 100 times in the last week. Don't cross that line.
Yeah, baby.
It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities.
That's right.
Don't test us. The nation wants a safe country. We've had enough crime in this country, illegal alien crime. It's time to end it and stop it. President Trump's committed to it. He's committed to securing this border. He's committed to having this mass deportation operation and concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. For any mayor or governor who's going to push back on removing public safety threats from your community, that is your number one responsibility. You ought to be teaming up with us. We have created the biggest national security vulnerability in this nation on the southern border. Because like I said, 2 million known gotaways. We don't know how many unknown gotaways. Already
terrible numbers. And he is talking like he means some serious business. So we're happy to see that change of urgency from this administration. The last administration sent Kamala down there. Remember? She was like, remember what she said? Think about the two different stories side by side. If the goal is to send somebody to create a disincentive to people who are coming here to talk a big game, right? If you come to our country, this is what we're going to do, says Tom Homan. Or Kamala, she comes down there. Do not come. Do not come. They're like, what? Did she just invite us over for dinner? I think she did. All right, let's go. Pack everybody up. Let's go. So a little different vibe there. You know what I mean? We're happy to see the change. Now, speaking of vibes and bad vibes, this is the dictator of Canada. We don't talk about him a lot because he's so terrible, but Justin Trudeau is now going to report he just got off the phone with President Trump, and here's how it went.
Bonjour tout le monde. I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this.
He has said nothing this entire time. What has he said?
Team Canada approach is what works. That's where, putting aside partisanship, that's where I reached out immediately to Doug Ford to agree with him that we would have a First Ministers meeting this week to talk about the United States, talked with François Legault and some other premiers as well. There's work to do, but we know how to do it. J'ai eu un bon appel avec Donald Trump hier soir.
This guy's one of the most pathetic leaders of all time. He just talks in platitudes. We have to be nonpartisan. We have to work together. We can do this. I've spoken to a lot of people. It was good. He's talking in circles. And you can basically see in his body language, he's pretty uncomfortable about this whole development. He was hoping that Kamala would win, and then they could, I don't know what they would do together. I didn't want to think about it. But all right, so that's him. Now, on the other side, this is Pierre Poilievre, who is also from Canada, who came in and talked about some of this. Says that Trudeau needs to heed this message.
The United States is the greatest economic and military superpower in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And they are our neighbor.
Yeah.
President Trump yesterday made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy.
Rough.
Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were surprised. 20 days ago, Chrystia Freeland said, "Don't worry, Canada will be fine." Apparently, neither she nor Justin Trudeau were following what the incoming president was saying. Our economy is teetering on the brink of collapse, and now we face this renewed threat.
Yeah, maybe Canada should arrest some more Freedom Convoy protesters and seize their bank accounts from them. Maybe that'll help.
We need a plan to put Canada first on the economy.
That's right. You should have a Canada first plan. That's right.
To start with, on the economy, I'm calling on Prime Minister Trudeau to put partisanship aside and in the spirit of Team Canada to accept that he cannot go ahead with quadrupling the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. This was an irresponsible policy to begin with.
What?
But combining this kind of crippling energy tax increase with potential tariffs from Donald Trump.
In Canada, they're quadrupling carbon taxes? What the heck?
Would push our economy into a nightmare and a tailspin. So let's put partisanship aside and axe the tax. Second,
do it.
The Prime Minister has to put aside partisanship and, in the spirit of Team Canada, cancel his energy cap, which would see Alberta and Saskatchewan produce 35% less energy.
What a ridiculous thing.
At a time when we need those jobs. It is our biggest industry and our biggest export.
And he wants to kneecap you guys.
The incoming American president says he wants to cut gas prices in half. Well, the only way to do it will be to import more clean Canadian energy. So the Prime Minister
Well, not really. We're going to drill the hell out of this place,
okay?
okay?
Our biggest industry.
But we'll also buy your cheap oil too.
He has to cancel all tax increases.
Yes.
Tax increases on work, investment, and making stuff in Canada. About a week ago, Justin Trudeau admitted that he broke our immigration system. And that brings new challenges. His own published documents show there are 4.9 million people here temporarily.
They got illegals too?
What the plan was to track their departures, and yesterday his immigration minister said, "We're just going to take people at their word." What is the plan
that's
to
what we
protect
do.
our security and reinstate
Not for long.
sovereignty over who is in our country? Military. Justin Trudeau has demolished our military with poor decisions, botched procurements, and wasted money. One thing he could do today is announce that his planned billion-dollar cut to the military is canceled, and then present a real plan to reallocate money away from lower priorities towards rebuilding our military and reinforcing our military security over North America. And finally, on drugs. I don't want to stop drug overdoses to please Donald Trump.
Yeah, good call.
I want to stop drug overdoses so that there's not one more mother with her face buried in a pillow,
good call,
sobbing that she just lost her kid. After 47,000 other Canadians have died. That's more than we lost in the Second World War. A 200% annual increase in drug overdose deaths have resulted from Justin Trudeau's radical liberalization of drugs.
Aren't they suiciding people
Justin
too
Trudeau
up there too?
must put partisanship aside, not just for the sake of Team Canada,
peaceful exits,
but for the sake of our people, and fully reverse his liberalization of drugs.
Amazing. So shout out to Pierre Poilievre. who is representing Canada, Canada should be Canada first. So should Mexico, right? All of these countries should be Mexico first, Canada first. I'm not upset about that at all. Guess what? We're America first, all right? And we're making some changes. So if you got to make some changes too, make some changes. We're all for it because that's how things work. Well, actually, when your country looks after yourself, then you can internally benefit your people rather than having our people compete with people all the way around the world and be poisoned by other drugs coming in from all around the world and have our country ransacked by people who look at us like an economic zone that has no culture and just buys cheap garbage from all around the world and eats poison. We're not doing that anymore. That game is over. Canada should do the same. Mexico should do the same. And if the Mexican president wants to tariff us on certain things, great. That's great. That's fine. We'll have fun with that. All right. We'll have a good time. I think America will be ready for a trade war. Our economy, our creativity, our innovative ability is in high demand by the rest of the world. That is our home field advantage. If people want access to our markets and all of this wealth and innovation, they should play fair with us and care about our interests and not treat our country like it's a landfill. And I would expect them to do the same for their people. I think the world will be better for it if we do that, rather than having international global conglomerates ransacking every country for their own ends. So Pierre Poilievre, nice statement from him. Trudeau on his back heels, and Americans seem to be liking what's happening with the Trump transition. Here is what CNN was reporting on these transition numbers.
Take a look here. President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That is well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point, they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of their victory. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up, and dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And, we're still on the appointment phase at this point, but it does give insight to sort of where this team is thinking to lead some of these key departments, of course. I mean, but how do people feel about the prospects of his presidency, given the context of some of these picks?
Yeah, it's not just that they like what Donald Trump is doing right now. They're optimistic for the future. So, again, let's compare ourselves now versus where we were 8 years ago. And what you see 8 years ago, 53% of Americans were scared or concerned, the majority towards the upcoming Trump term. Look at where we are now. The shoe is on the other foot. 53% of Americans are excited or optimistic.
About a dictatorship?
Where a narrow majority 8 years ago were scared or concerned about the upcoming Trump term.
In a dictatorship.
Now what we see is that the majority is excited or optimistic about the Trump term. So what we're just seeing is very different numbers from where we were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, folks really were not that in love with the Trump transition. Now they are, and more than that, looking forward to the upcoming Trump term. 8 years ago, the majority were scared or concerned. Now the majority are excited or optimistic.
And
dictatorships are in.
The reality is for these cabinet picks, they've got to get confirmed by the Senate here. And so I think rightfully so, a lot of concern has gone into, okay, where will Republicans
Insurrection's so high right
in
now.
Supporting these picks, since they are the majority. But Democrats were also very opposed to Trump's picks and his presidency overall in 2017 coming in. Where are they now?
I think one word to describe Democrats now, it's just, they're exhausted. They're tired. It's very hard being in the opposition.
Yeah.
Donald Trump wears out his opponents, and I think they've done that here. So Democrats, Trump's win motivates me in what way to do things? Just 44% say to oppose Donald Trump. The majority, the 56%, either 46%, it doesn't motivate me at all, which I think is really the exhaustion pick, right? This is the plurality. Or 10% say it actually motivates them to support Donald Trump. Together, these numbers get 56%, far higher than the 44% who say oppose Donald Trump. The bottom line is this. Republicans very motivated by Donald Trump's win, and compared to 8 years ago, Democrats just really, really tired. They have just given up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're tired, man. They see the illegal immigrants. They see the crime. They see the inflation. They see the wars. They see the censorship. They're sick of it, too. I'd be exhausted, too. It's like, man, I'm fighting for these people, and my life gets worse every day. Every time they touch something, my life gets worse. Could you imagine how tiring that would be? It'd be like showing up to a game, fighting hard, losing all the time, and you're worse off for it. Like, it'd be like going and fighting a game, and you don't actually burn any calories. You get fatter. Imagine if you go to the gym every day and you get fatter every day. It's like being a Democrat. All right. You work for Democrats and you probably literally get fatter too, in addition to everything else, right? Like your life gets worse. It gets worse. So, yeah, its numbers are good. They don't have the energy anymore. And I think this is a point about stamina. And this is a great life lesson in general. I've often thought that some of my success, whatever I have is I just keep going. I don't even know exactly how it's going to end up or how it's going to work, or just keep going. And if you can outlast other people, you'll do well. And in many people, you'll outlast just by going. Just put one foot in front of the other, even if you don't know where you're going. Be predisposed to action. And Trump has been that to a degree that it's even been difficult for me to fathom. Because we're sitting here watching this, and it's almost like Trump is in a different operational sphere. It's the power of positive thinking, which he's a big believer of, to the nth degree. Almost like he doesn't even recognize the reality of some of the difficulties in his life, and he just keeps going. And there's something about that, because it's almost like you're an unstoppable force. He is an unstoppable force. 4 criminal charges, multiple civil infractions, threats of jail, threats of having his entire business evaporated from him. And he just keeps going. It's like totally deflating. It's like going 10 rounds with the dude. You're exhausted and he's like ready for another set. You're like, what? That's Trump. And the Democrats should be exhausted because they just got obliterated. So great news there. Tariffs are coming in hot. We're here for it, my friends. Time to make America great again. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, we've got one final segment and one update before we hear from you and see what you have to say about all this. Short update from Politico. The Trump assassin now speaks. He wrote a letter to Politico, and they cobbled together this ridiculous article that explains what he said. And they're going to contort themselves into trying not to explain that this guy's a maniac who hates Trump, probably brainwashed by their own propaganda. Instead, they'll just deflect and say, he's just a confused, unhinged man, and they won't even publish the full letter for us to read. They'll just excerpt certain bits of it and then share those bits with us. So here's what they write. They say, in the headline, one of Trump's alleged attempted assassins sent me a letter. Ryan Ruth, the guy in Florida who was on the golf course, sent this one in today. Apparently, Ankush Kadori is a former federal prosecutor, and he got a letter. Says the day after the second attempt on his life this year, Trump blamed Biden and Harris, said that their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at. Now, that is one reason, among others, I was intrigued when I received a 4-page letter at Politico's office that was addressed to me and appeared to be from Ruth himself. At the top line on the return address was, quote, was Trump alleged shooter. He says, Trump alleged shooter, federal penitentiary located here. Here's my address and number. And below that was Ryan Ruth's name, inmate number and address for the federal detention center in Miami, where he'd be held since mid-September. It eventually became clear that the letter was in fact from Ruth. The handwriting closely resembled the handwriting in a letter that the DOJ said was Ruth's, which we read here, as evidence of his plan to kill Trump, and the signature matched his signature from another document from 2015. We sent a copy of the envelope to Ruth's lawyers and asked them to let us know if it was not from him. They declined to comment. In recent weeks, Ruth also apparently sent a similar letter to the Palm Beach Post. Now, in deciding to publish this story, said Politico, like they should have obviously published the letter immediately. We were not eager to appear as if we were simply providing a platform for the political views of someone accused of attempted murder. What? It is generally not a good idea simply to take the claims of an accused or convicted criminal at face value. They can have agendas and delusions, or sometimes both. What? Just report it. You don't need to explain it. This is called a prebuttal or persuasion as opposed to persuasion. Persuading you that whatever this guy is going to say, he could be crazy. Okay? So we don't want to really show you what he wrote in the letter. But ultimately, Ruth's letter, which includes potentially incriminating references to the attempt on Trump's life and a self-description of his political beliefs, is newsworthy, obviously. There was, after all, legitimate and widespread media coverage when federal prosecutors made public part of the letter that they attributed to Ruth, a somewhat confusing letter that appears to have been written several months before his arrest, and in which he appears at the time to have contemplated a failed assassination attempt. On top of that, Ruth apparently tried to eliminate a leading presidential candidate, now president-elect, but did not leave a formal manifesto. He's scheduled for trial in February. On an even more basic level, if Ruth held a press conference, we would cover it. Okay. So Ruth's new correspondence may shed some light on what drove him to make an attempt on Trump's life, though we should approach it with a measure of caution. He may simply be a disturbed individual. I cannot even believe this is a journalist who's writing this. Like, dude, you don't need to explain it like you're explaining us like this to an 8-year-old. Okay, listen, little Robbie, I'm going to tell you something that might be a little nerve-wracking, but just so you know, just give me the letter. We're adults. Just publish the letter. How'd you get it? You don't need to cope into the explanation before the letter. To hear Ruth tell it, he has no particular affinity for the Democratic Party or either major political party for that matter. This is such a joke. He said, apparently Ruth wrote this, "I am unclear how we allowed ourselves to fall into just a two-party system," he wrote. They don't even give us this is how can you just give us the letter so we can read it? Ruth said, "But it infuriates me. My entire life has been plagued by D's and R's. It seems not long ago, there was a push for the Libertarian Party and now a Green Party and maybe Truth Party, but for some reason our leaders have not allowed any other party to be recognized in any race." Ruth criticized, quote, the two ruling parties and argued that, quote, "With our national debt swallowing us whole and bankruptcy imminent, we may as well fix this problem balls out." He appeared to call for full public campaign financing in order to eliminate private donations and takes issue with gridlock in Congress. He says, "We all wonder why we end up with such flawed candidates," Ruth wrote, "when our system is designed to exclude most everyone." At one point in the letter, Ruth explicitly disclaimed any affiliation with the Democratic Party. And they linked to PolitiFact. This is such a scam. "A guard in Palm Beach asked jokingly if I was a Democrat. I said no, independent. I vote for the best candidate." To be sure, Ruth is a vigorous Trump opponent. He wrote his letter before the election and urged the country, in the event of a Trump victory, to remove the power of our military by the president and place it with Congress. "We must limit all presidential power before Trump seizes our country," he wrote. He referred to Trump at one point as a dictator. There it is. Last year, Trump said he would not be a dictator if reelected, except for day one. Remember that joke with Hannity that they blew out of proportion. In the event that Trump lost, Ruth called on Americans to encircle the Capitol to prevent another siege on the Capitol like the one that occurred before. Except what, to stop Trump from coming in? At multiple points, he contemplated the prospect of another, quote, civil war. And they say, for the record, this is not a good idea, to put it as mildly as possible. Whoever wrote this, I'm angry at. Ruth referred to himself multiple times as the Trump alleged shooter, perhaps to avoid an explicit confession. But at one point, he linked himself directly to Thomas Matthew Crooks, the first person who tried to shoot Trump and did shoot him in the head. Crooks was killed on site by a Secret Service sniper. Ruth has been charged in an attempted assassination. Ruth described them, however, both as being ready to die for freedom and democracy. He was going to shoot Trump to save American democracy, just like they wanted on MSNBC. The letter continued with a short section urging people to vote against Trump and criticized him for having destroyed the Mideast. Wonder how he feels now that he's president-elect, Ruth. Ruth took specific issue with Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. He name-checked the JCPOA, blamed Trump for all those lives lost in the region. He closed with a call for an agreement to end the conflict in the Middle East. He says, we must demand that Israel stop their attacks and demand that all parties come to the table to find common ground. He urged Biden and Blinken to meet the new presidents for as long as it takes. He said, my fellow men, please demand peace. So Politico in this ridiculous article says, take this for what it's worth, which may not be much. After all, we couldn't publish the full letter, so we don't believe anything you said in here. Just publish it. Just scan it and put it online. But are the Biden and Harris to blame for Ruth's plot? Ruth clearly views Trump as a threat to democracy, which echoes a major piece of the Democratic case against him. That said, the only reference to Biden is made amongst the Middle East. In the end, he says, in the end, we can't know what may have driven an agitated mind to attempt a heinous act. We can't know. So confusing for him. Man, it's really complicated. Maybe if he can't figure this stuff out, maybe he shouldn't be writing articles for Politico. You don't know. You don't have to believe Ruth based on what he put in his letter. He's not exactly a reliable narrator, but you also don't have to take the word of partisan politicians, which is Trump, I guess. The only thing for certain in these polarized climate is that the debate isn't going away. This is one of the dumbest articles we've ever read on the show. By Ankush Kardari, he's a former prosecutor, is that right? Yeah, there it is. Former federal prosecutor at the DOJ. This may be the dumbest article we've ever read. Anytime somebody, writes a piece like this and they're like, well, the only thing that we know is that we don't know anything. You're like, thanks. So what did you just write that article for? Thanks for your useless analysis and not even posting the actual letter. We know what the motivation was. He hated Trump. He was brainwashed to hate Trump. Said that Trump was a dictator and a threat to American democracy. The same narrative that people at Politico and all the other cable shows have been saying for months. And then when he says a letter, he's like, hey, I did it because you guys told me to do it. They're like, well, we don't know. Very confusing to us. Maybe we should write some more articles about how confused we are. Oh, we are all now dumber. It's from Billy Madison. We have no idea what you said here, Ankush, and we're all dumber for having read your article. Thank you for saying that you don't know anything about it and not even publishing the letter so we can help you. Put the letter up there. We'll help you figure it out. Thank you, K-Bean, for the Billy Madison reference. Gosh, ridiculous. All right, so they can't figure it out. We know what the truth is. Politico's having a hard time. Hopefully Ankush can get to the bottom of this. All right, my friends. Now, if you're just joining us, let's do a quick recap on what we talked about today. Then we'll see what you have to say about all this. So we talked about the Florida classified documents case, which has now been dismissed. It was on appeal. Jack Smith filed a motion to dismiss. The court has granted it. We also saw Trump is fuming mad about being a victim of the political prosecution, and he hopefully will have some recourse. Shifty Schiff was here. Tom Cotton reacted. Matt Gaetz was reacting. Alina Habba was in the house. We had Shermichael Singleton, which might have the best name of all time. Newt Gingrich was here. And we had a little bit of reaction from CNN rounding out the Jack Smith cases. They are now gone and done. No appeals, no J6 case ongoing. Bye-bye, Jack. Then we talked about tariffs and had some fun on that one because Trump's not playing around. 10% tariffs on China in addition to anything else that's going on China. 25% to Canada and Mexico until we stop the ransacking of our country from our so-called allies. Then we've got more reaction from the people in the other countries, including Scheinbaum, who is from Mexico. We had Kareen's Chinese counterpart, Chinese Kareen, Mao Ning, who was not answering many questions at all when asked about this. And the little dictator from Canada, Justin Trudeau, was also there, talking in platitudes and in circles, as he usually does. Then we talked about the Trump assassin in this terrible article from somebody who knows nothing about anything and wrote it in a, I can't believe you wrote it. I don't know anything about anything. I'm going to write an article about it. All right. And now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. It's a beautiful Tuesday. Hope your Thanksgiving week is feeling energized and you're working up an appetite because it's going to be a good one. All right, let's see who's here. And yesterday, I wanted to say thank you to Alan Harkin. We missed Alan. Alan Harkin, if you're out there, we missed you yesterday. You sent in a dono on Rumble, and we were mobile, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Language. But Alan, thank you for the dono. Alan sent this yesterday. He says, awesome reporting these legal webs, Rob. Always on top of your game. I'm feeling much more on top of things lately. Seeing political and legal issues ending correctly, I continue to be appreciative of you. Alan Harkin, thank you for that nice comment and the very nice dono as always. Sorry we missed you yesterday. It's interesting, isn't it interesting to start to see these cases wrap up? It's almost surreal. I'm like, wait, I was doing show prep today and I'm like, I wonder what's going on with the Jack Smith cases. They're dismissed. Oh yeah, everything's changing. It's nice to see it all come full circle. And they are good outcomes, but we're not done with them. I really think that there were criminality in the prosecutions, and there should be recourse on that. So thank you, Alan, for the nice dono, Alan. Very nice of you to send that yesterday. And we're glad to have you on this one. Hey, here's a new one that came in from today. From B.H. Williams. What's up, B.H. Williams? Oh, it's Taco Tuesday today. Yeah, be happy. Stay positive. Don't let the negativity and the drama of the world get you down. This is... who are these creatures? These characters? Happy Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. I can't remember. I don't know. Hey, B.H. Williams says, could the new Justice Department go to the 11th Circuit and reopen it? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Because appeals, there are timing issues on appeals. So I don't think they're going to redo that appeal. They're going to be out of time. Yeah, hey, this is how I feel right now. Check this one out. This is how I feel right now. So much winning, baby. Heck yeah. That's how I feel. Doing the Trump dance. Doing the Trump dance. B.H. Williams, what's up? In the house says, could the new Justice Department go to the 11th Circuit and reopen it? I doubt it. Let's get the decision on Smith's boyhood on the record. Yeah, like, could Trump reopen it? Could Trump appeal it? I don't think so. I think it'll be dismissed and it's done. Yeah. But it's an interesting thought. NY says, Gavin Newsom threatening felony charges to anyone who aids Fed deportation effort, even law enforcement. Wow, that's fun. So, well, maybe Gavin Newsom should be charged with as a conspirator against the federal government. He can be indicted by special counsel Matt Gaetz. Larry865 says, can President Trump pardon himself if it looks like the deep state is going to continue to prosecute him after his term? It's up for debate, Larry. There's not been a president who's pardoned himself before, but there's no real prohibition against it in the Constitution, like the president can pardon anybody except himself. So arguably he could. Will he? Is another thing to see. Pam Ragland says, wait, can't the two other defendants continue the appeal? Yeah, they could, but I think Trump will probably nuke that case, right? Jack's case, I think, is going to go away. Is that the one in the 11th Circuit, or is it the DOJ appeal? Yeah, the appeal is still pending as to the two others. You're right about that. If they did not dismiss, but I think it's going to go away anyways, because Jack Smith's team is going to be fired. So as soon as Trump comes in, that appeal, I do not think we'll have the DOJ backing anymore. If they did not dismiss versus the other defendants, can't Trump pardon them? Yeah, so like Trump is going to make it so like their cases are going to go away. His DOJ, I think, is not going to stand up the appeal. So yeah, I think that they're ultimately going to go away, which means he's not going to need to pardon them. Pam says, not only that Nara told Trump he had to take the boxes, he took them. Who knows what was in those boxes? Could have been planted, but regardless, he still has the power to declassify while in office anyway. These nut jobs just never give up. They want to keep their fake narrative. It's so disgusting. Says Rob, can't the false DUI complaint file a tort claim? It also costs failure to act. For example, me having to sue Wells Fargo because our government has let them get away with forgery. You may be able to, depending on what the cops did to you, you may be able to file a claim. But, I mean, if they come through and we got reasonable suspicion and probable cause, they've got qualified immunity. So it's hard to sue cops. They've got immunity. Sheila Pooh says, could the courts dismiss with prejudice? If Trump had requested it, maybe. Chutkin may have, but Trump would have to show that prejudice should attach. And generally that attaches like when the trial starts. So I don't think they had a good basis for the request, which is probably why they didn't request it. Hey, what's up? Thank you, Sheila Poo. Great to see you here. Thanks for the comment. Christo Bryans. What's up, Christo? Hey, Robert, love the show. Just wondering, was there any judgments made on any of the lawfare cases? If so, was precedent set in your courts? How can these be reversed if there was? Well, it depends which lawfare cases you're talking about, Christo. And Christo, it's great to see you. I think that's from South America, right? So, or South Africa. Thanks for watching from South Africa. Super cool. Thanks for the dono. So the lawfare cases, when I think of the lawfare cases, it's a broad category. So I think of the Trump prosecutions. And yeah, there have been judgments on two of the big ones, the J6 case, which we've been talking about, and the Florida classified documents case. Both of those are dismissed. So they're not going to be reversed. Jack Smith would have to refile. The DOJ would have to refile to basically reverse those. But they're not going to come back. But the other two, the Georgia case and the New York case, in New York, the sentencing on that one was vacated, which means it disappeared, and they replaced it with another hearing, which means I think it's going to go away ultimately. And same thing in Georgia. So the oral arguments in the Georgia appeal has also been vacated. So we'll probably get a ruling from the Georgia Court of Appeals, and that will terminate that one. So 2 are done, 2 more still going, and we're expecting good outcomes on the remaining 2. Thank you, Christo. Good to see you. Angry Bellsprout says, anyone keep getting ads during all live streams? Probably, yeah. I mean, I'm probably a bunch of people are. YouTube does ads in live streams. It's probably why you're getting them, Angry Bellsprout. Thanks for watching them and supporting the channel. We love you. Hey, Rob Turbin says, Gaetz to special counsel. Who better to investigate Biden's DOJ? Said no need for Senate confirmation. I know. It would be great. It would be great if that happened, right? I mean, look, I do think as a matter of law, a special counsel needs to be appointed and confirmed by the Senate. But it would just be bittersweet irony for them to have Matt Gaetz come in and not be confirmed and just go, hard against everybody and just say, you guys, your rule. And he can do it out of DC too. Hey, Rob Turbin, good to see you. Schlista says, here's what we need more of. A prosecutor charged a man and his son for several bogus charges while the man tried to save his home from a battery fire. Cops beat the crap out of the man, dragged him out of his house. Grand jury played the Uno reverse card, charged the cop with all the charges they tried to charge this man with. Here's the link, but you can watch later. Base grand jury indicts the cop instead. That sounds like a great video. That's hilarious. Okay, so that's an interesting one. Hey, it's from the civil lawyer. That's awesome. Christo Bryans says, hey, creds to Rob Turbin. Gaetz could be the Trump real boy with a special counsel office. He would qualify, won't he? I mean, once Trump is in office, it depends whose standard you apply. If you apply the actual standard, I don't think Gaetz was ever appointed as a U.S. attorney or confirmed by the Senate. He was just a congressman. So if you apply, I think, the real standard, Gaetz would not qualify. If you apply the Jack Smith standard, Gaetz is perfectly qualified because anybody is, doesn't matter. Sheila Poo. How did Mexico get a president named Scheinbaum? I was wondering the same thing. I mean, I remember like we had Fox, we had AMLO, like Calderon, there's a bunch of other, and then we get Scheinbaum. I was like, that does not sound Mexican at all. But I don't know. It seems like it's like out of the ordinary pattern of presidential names. But she's also female. She's also the first female president. So maybe that's why. Jonathan, what's up? Jonathan Makayanko says, that's going on with my brother right now. Everything came back clean and he still has to take tests even with the DUI charges dropped. Yeah, I know, John. Man, I'm sorry to hear that about your brother. It's really a defeating thing. I remember I'll never forget one client I had that happen to. And he was just shocked. I mean, he's just shocked. He's like, they can just do that? Yeah, they just did it. I mean, it's like, well, yeah. What are you going to do? Sue them? They have qualified immunity. And so he investigated a bunch of things, gave him referrals to other civil lawyers and stuff. And he was just shocked. He was just shocked that they can just arrest you, take your blood, seize everything. He had nothing in his system, nothing. Just some lunatic cop. His whole night was ruined. His life was, he felt like he had his blood taken from his body. It's like a total violation of he was really upset about it. And it really, really kind of stuck with me. It was early in my career. And I'm like, yeah, man, system sucks. Totally, like no consequence for you. They shoved a needle into your arm. And I think he was, if I remember correctly, he was a refusal. All right. So maybe he wasn't a refusal. Actually, I don't think he was a refusal. But I've had others who were refusals. And then they actually strap you down, right? And then take your blood out of your body. But this guy, the first guy, was not. He was very compliant. There's nothing in there. And he was very upset. Anyways, it's sick. Sorry that's happening to your brother. Happens all the time. Jonathan, what's up? Jack Mack says, 15 months as a membo. Says, dear illegals, no one's above the law. Okay, nobody is above the law. That's right, Jack Mack. Their standard. Thank you for being a membo for 15 months, Jack. You're amazing. No one's above the law. Not Jack Smith, not illegals, nobody. Except the president, really. Jack Mack says, Justin Trudeau looked absolutely exhausted in that interview. I think he got the figurative Trump beatdown, defeated. Could you imagine Trudeau having to call Trump? Trump must be having the most fun right now, man. He's like, who's on the phone? They're like, hey, Mr. President, another phone call. Who is it? It's Justin Trudeau from Canada. Tell him I'll be with him in 15 minutes. Put him on hold, all right? Put him on hold. I'll get to him in a minute. Hey, what's up? Don Goff says, not a climate denier, okay? Climate is cyclic. Well, Don, that's very conspiratorial. I think actually the truth is if you change your light bulbs, you can save the planet. As long as you consume less so that people like Al Gore can have more. Thank you, Don Goff. One new baby in the house. We had a baby. Thank you, Don Goff. Jack Mack says it's pronounced Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre, I think. Well, we'll never remember that. But thank you for the correction, Jack. Scotty Carroll says, give me more of that dictator. Yeah, apparently everybody's very happy with this. Dictator America. Insurrectionist commander-in-chief. Everybody's like, this is great. We love it. Let's have more tyranny in America. Hey, Jack Mack says, 8 years ago, we were excited about winning. Today, we're still not tired of winning. More winning, please. Uncle Trump's in the house. Man, we're having a good trajectory right now, Jack. We got good momentum, good energy. We don't even have any power yet. I mean, can you think about that? They're already acting as though Trump is the acting president, because he basically is, because Joe Biden is gone. Gone. Kamala just got back from Hawaii. She was at the beach there, probably hammered with backhand Doug. Hey, Angry Bellsprout says, can we mass deport to Ukraine? Since, well, we do need to support Western democracy, and we do need people there in Ukraine. So maybe, maybe that's a solution for something. Hey, K Bean says, thanks for exposing the idiocracy. Man, we got a lot of that. We got a lot of work cut out for us, K Bean. 33 months as a membo. Thank you, K Bean. You're amazing. We love K Bean. Amazing. K Bean, thank you for that. 33 months. Thanks for modding the fort down for us and jumping in the chat and reminding me about amazing Billy Madison references. Jack Mack says, so much winning. So much winning. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, baby. Hey, ELZ says, aren't there more fake electors trial pending? Yeah, that's right, actually. Georgia. That's right. We should not forget about our fake electors, although I haven't seen much happening on those. And I wonder what's going to happen with those. Chris Mays has one in Arizona. I think Wisconsin has one. I think Michigan has one, right? With Dana Nessel. Georgia's, clearly. Yeah, you're right about that, ELZ. It's Tom and Jerry. Oh, that was Tom and Jerry? Oh, I knew that. I should have gotten that one. I'm mad at myself on that one. If that was a board game question, I'd have been very mad at myself. Hey, Reviant says, thank you for doing these and putting in ways that are easy to understand. I sometimes have to take a break during government filings. Elections equals vindication. Thank you for that, Reviant. Yeah, that's interesting feedback too. And Royal Lindian says, I love this channel for that reason too. The cases are highly complex. He breaks it down to me as if I was like a 10-year-old. Well, thank you for that, Rivian. I think, man, I'm grateful that you're just here. You're willing to go through it with us together. I mean, I have a ton of fun, and I think we're learning a lot together. We're exploring these things in public together. So I'm glad that you're here with us. Thank you both for that great comment. Hey, here's one from John McGarvey. Oh yeah, Villa Plot said this. Yeah, join on locals. There's no interstitials. Nothing pops up in the middle of the locals feed, which is very nice. On locals, you only hear me do the actual live reads, but there's nothing that pops up there to interrupt your viewing experience. Thank you, Villa Plot. That's a good comment. Uncle Bozy says, my fiance was from Prescott. I spent time there before she passed away. Loved it. Thumb Butte, Granite Dells, Whiskey Row. Glad you're moving there. Good move. Thank you, Uncle Bozy. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good move. It's a little bit less compressed. The valley's very compressed. And so it's going to be good to get up and out of it a little bit. A little more breathing room. Thumb Butte's great. We hiked to the top of that over the summer. Yeah, it was a great hike. It's beautiful, man. Prescott's beautiful. Good lakes. I might like take up kayaking and fishing, be like an outdoorsman. It's going to be great. Uncle Bozy. Thank you for that. Hey, Russell Pooh says, it sounds like a church pew. Hi, Sheila. Russell Pugh, it sounds like a church pew. Hi, Sheila. Hey, what's up, Sheila? Shout out from Russell Pugh. Sounds like church pew. Good to see you, Russell. Thanks for the dono. MT Coiner says, thanks for the coverage. Let's keep winning. That's what we're going to do here, MT Coiner. We're just ramping up. We're just getting started. Former Leo says, it looks like they had boys and girls from Brazil. War crimes, anyone? I don't know. I'm sure that is a real possibility. Thank you, former Leo, for the dono. And my friends, thanks for sending those in. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we round it out for the day. All right, X is live. Are we live? We got a couple comments. Hey, Fred Petamonte says, I took a large gulp of Coke Zero as you started talking about how the Political article was so bad. I laughed so hard I spit a mouthful all over my room, dog, and TV. Sorry about that, Fred. Over Johnny? This little Johnny got a nice helping of Coke Zero. You might have liked it. Coke Zero is pretty delicious. That's funny. That article was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Worse than I was even expecting. Hey, this one. Rob, I've been trying to get justice for the people of Treasure Island, where the city of San Francisco placed low-income housing on the chemical, biological, and radiological training base of people who have died. Wow. This is an article from this San Francisco Bay View. It sounds terrible. James Pepper says, wow, some more links over there about radiation exposure. That's a terrible story. Hey, Al Homan says, nice work, young man. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Al. And B. Torn says, if Trump doesn't allow the FBI to investigate this, everything will have been for naught. Our efforts must count or we lost by winning. Wow, that's a great comment. Our efforts must count or we lost by winning. Wow. That's heavy, man. That's profound, B-Torn. Yeah, we do not want to lose by winning, right? You often talk about that in terms of squandering your victory, but you could lose by winning. You win, you think the game's over. It's not over. It's not over. And that's our point yesterday. Yeah, they're dismissed. That's great. That's great. But it's not over, man. Just because we won doesn't mean that these people aren't going to just crawl back into the gutters only to emerge again down the road. So there needs to be consequences for violating the law. NY says, Rob, if you're hunting for topics, I would love an overview of 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. I think it's a tool Trump's DOJ can use to root out some of this DOJ oppression. That's a good suggestion, NY. It's a great statute. Yeah, and I think I saw that the oversight people said that they're preparing a model indictment, NY. So I'm looking forward to reading that. As soon as that comes out, we'll be looking forward to reading that. I wonder if they'll charge that in the indictment. Rub some dirt on it. Says, when the Prescott move happens, you're going to want a telescope. Let me know. That sounds awesome. Rub some dirt on it. Are you a connoisseur of telescopes? I'm into space. When I was a boy, you know, when you're a boy, you have like 4 options, I think. It's like sharks, construction vehicles, dinosaurs, or outer space. Like you get one of those options as a kid, as a boy. I went with outer space. That was mine. I'm a big fan of dinosaurs and construction too. Not so much sharks, but the outer space was pretty cool. That was kind of mine. You know, I'd like the astronomy class in college and all those things, but telescopes, man, are complicated. So like I'd have to learn how to function it and all the lenses and things. Be a fun hobby. I like it. I'm into it. Hey, what's up? Thank you for that one. And hey, we had some more membos coming in. Amazing. Ollie is bringing in Russell Pugh, like Church Pew in the house. What's up, Russell Pugh? Thank you for coming in. Ollie, for bringing him in. We got more here. Bringing in one more here. Bria is coming in. What's up, Bria? And people thanking Ollie for the membo. More here also brought in Yorick. Welcome, Yorick. Thank you, more here. And more here also brought in Ja in the house. Good to see you. Thank you, my friends, for bringing in more here. And welcome new membos. New membos, we did not have a morning stream for membos this morning because we were on the road coming back down from Prescott, but we did have a stream. We did post a short 5-minute video on where we were staying this morning, so you can check that out if you're a new membo. And then, of course, tomorrow's Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, so we'll have a members-only stream in the morning, and so we'll see you tomorrow morning as well. Yeah, gonna need a truck and a cowboy hat in Prescott. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. Am I gonna have to change anything here? I don't think so. I think we can be mostly the same. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so my friends, it's been an amazing stream. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday and your week is unfolding very nicely. Hopefully it's a little bit lighter and a little bit more festive than your other weeks as we gear up for the beautiful Thanksgiving. We're going to pause here for the night. We're going to head on over to Locals for our members only after party, hang out, debrief, take some comments, take some questions. We'd love to have you join us. watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to head on over there. Otherwise, my friends, we are going to be back tomorrow. We're coming back tomorrow. Same place, same time on the docket. And so we hope to see you here. Thanks to our mods, K-Bean, Donut, John McGarvey, clipping away for us. You guys rock. What's up? I think I saw Playing Hooky in the house. Great to see Playing Hooky. And so, my friends, it is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful evening. We're going to pause right there. We're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.